The marine sealant scam is costing you thousands. You walk into a chandlery and they hand you a $30 tube of polyurethane adhesive, promising a leak-proof deck. But old-school shipwrights know the truth. They reach right past the shiny marketing and grab a $5 roll of butyl tape. Here is the dirty secret of the modern boatyard. When you bed a deck cleat or a winch with a structural adhesive like 3M5200, you are not just stopping a leak, you are chemically welding that hardware to the fiberglass permanently. When that part inevitably needs to be rebedded or replaced, you will literally rip chunks of the structural deck core out, trying to remove it. The modern marine industry relies on these destructive chemicals to generate massive, expensive fiberglass repair bills down the line. So, why did we abandon the flexible, immortal waterproofing that kept boats dry for a century, just to glue our hardware down forever? Walk into any chandlery in America, and the script never changes. You're standing at the counter, wallet in hand, and the salesperson slides a glossy tube of 3M5200 across the glass. Price tag, $30. The promise? Leak-proof forever. The unspoken reality? You're about to buy yourself a future bill for hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars in hidden damage. That's the real bait, not the leak, but the repair bill waiting for you down the road. Meanwhile, the old-timers, the ones who built Hinkley's and Island packets back when yards still cared about what happened 10 years after launch, are not reaching for the miracle tube. They are grabbing a $5 roll of dull gray butyl tape. No marketing, no fancy claims, just a sticky, slow squish gasket that has kept hardware dry and removable since the Eisenhower administration. I have watched it happen for decades. The Chandlery Syndicate, West Marine leading the charge, pushes polyurethane structural adhesives like 5200 for every deck job, from cleats to stanchions to winches. They do not mention that 5200 is a moisture-curing, permanent chemical bond, engineered by 3M Corporation to weld hulls, not seal hardware you will need to service next season. They do not mention that once you glue a fitting down with this stuff, you have put yourself in chemical handcuffs. When the time comes to swap out that cleat, you will be spending hours with a heat gun, a pry bar, and a rising sense of dread as the gel coat starts to lift and the balsa core underneath begins to tear. That is not a leak-proof solution. That is a ticking time bomb. But the price gap tells you everything. $5 for a lifetime gasket, or $30 for a single-use chemical trap. The salesperson smiles, the receipt prints, and the cycle continues. Most boat owners do not realize they are paying for the privilege of future destruction. The scam is not in the product. It is in the habit, the quiet normalization of using structural glue where a simple, reversible gasket would do the job better, cheaper, and without setting the stage for catastrophic core rot. And the industry is more than happy to collect the repair bills when the trap finally springs. In the late 1970s, as production builders transitioned to high-volume fiberglass assembly lines, they traded the slow, meticulous art of mechanical gasketing for the speed of the caulking gun. The caulking gun, loaded with polyurethane structural adhesive, became the symbol of progress. The old-timers shook their heads. They knew what was coming, but the industry was already hooked, time was money, and the new way was faster, cheaper, and easier to teach to a green crew. Hinkley and Island Packet held out, stubbornly clinging to the old methods, but they were now outliers in a market obsessed with speed and volume. It was not just about saving minutes on the line, it was about changing the entire relationship between owner and boat. The new adhesives 3M5200, Sikaflex 291, and their cousins offered the illusion of permanence. Polyurethane structural adhesive, moisture-cured to a tensile strength of roughly 700 pounds per square inch, could weld a hull to deck joint tight enough to survive a yard crane's worst day. That is what it was designed for, a genuine marvel of chemical engineering. But when the same chemistry started creeping into deck hardware installs, the line between gasket and glue got erased. Fittings that should have been sealed with a flexible, serviceable gasket were now chemically handcuffed to the deck. Owners lost the right to disassemble, to maintain, to adapt. Every stanchion base, every winch, every cleat became a future repair bill waiting to happen. There is no conspiracy, just a quiet normalization. Chandlery shelves, West Marine catalogs, and glossy trade ads all lined up behind the new logic: if a little sealant is good, a permanent bond must be better. The ABYC recommendations for removable hardware, flexible bedding, mechanical fastening got drowned out by the marketing drumbeat. The term chemical handcuffs was not coined in a boardroom. It came from the back corner of the yard, from the retired foreman who had spent 40 years chiseling out hardware that should have come off with a screwdriver. He will tell you the $5 butyl tape roll never put anyone in handcuffs. The $30 tube of polyurethane did. That is how the scam got its foothold, not through malice, but through the slow drift from craft to convenience, from gasket to glue. Adhesives in the marine world come with bold promises, but their true character is found in chemistry and numbers. At one end sits butyl tape, a non-curing petroleum-based gasket material. It is inert, it never hardens, and it does not form a chemical bond. Its tensile strength is barely 15 to 30 pounds per square inch, but that is beside the point. Butyl's job is to create a flexible, serviceable gasket that compresses under pressure and stays pliable for decades. When it is time to rebed hardware, you peel it away, wipe the residue, and start over. No solvents, no chisels, no drama. On the other end are the modern marine adhesives, each defined by their chemical class. 3M5200 stands out, a moisture-curing polyurethane designed for structural bonding. It cures into a permanent, elastomeric joint with a tensile strength of about 700 pounds per square inch. That figure means you are not just sealing, you are fusing materials together. 3M5200 is what you reach for when you need a hull-to-deck joint to survive a hurricane or a crane drop. It was never meant for hardware you might want to remove later. Using it for a cleat is like lighting a match with a blowtorch, overkill and often regrettable. Sikaflex 291 and polyether. SMPS, Loctite, Sabatac, and Mastersil offer a different balance. Still moisture curing, they trade some strength for flexibility. Sikaflex 291 clocks in around 260 pounds per square inch tensile, with elongation up to 500%. Mastersil, an SMP, reaches about 290 pounds per square inch. These adhesives flex with the boat, cure faster than polyurethanes, and handle ultraviolet and salt better, but once cured, they are still a permanent bond. A marine surveyor once remarked, "You can always tell when polyurethane has been used. The hardware is locked down until the core starts to rot." The data sheets spell out the difference: tensile versus shear, permanent versus serviceable, glue versus gasket. That is the taxonomy the industry rarely explains, but every repair bill confirms. Marine silicone gets sold as a cure-all, but it is a silent saboteur. The label promises flexibility and easy cleanup, but what you are really buying is a future headache. Every veteran knows the sharp vinegar tang of silicone drifting through a boatyard. That smell means someone has just set a trap for the next repair. Once silicone touches fiberglass, it leaves behind a stubborn oil film. Scrubbing, acetone, even sanding, none of it guarantees a clean bond. Paint, epoxy, new sealant, nothing sticks until you grind back to bare glass. The surface energy drops so low, even barnacles hesitate. Surveyors can spot it by touch, then call for aggressive sanding or even full relamination. The American Boat and Yacht Council has quietly warned, never use silicone for anything structural. It is only for galley or head seams where the bond does not matter. There is confusion in the aisles about what is safe. Some folks curse 3M5200, calling it the devil's glue. That is not quite fair. 3M5200 is a moisture-curing polyurethane adhesive engineered for permanent, elastomeric joints with a tensile strength around 700 pounds per square inch, perfect for hull-to-deck seams or through hulls that should never move. But bedding a cleat or stanchion with it is like lighting a cigar with a blowtorch. It is overkill, and you will regret it when you need to service the hardware. Sikaflex 291 Loctite SMP Mastersil. These are polyether sealants. They are strong, flexible, but not meant to be taken apart. They are a compromise, not a fix. The real answer is mechanical fastening with a dynamic gasket, something that flexes, compresses, and can be replaced without destruction. Butyl tape is the unsung hero. Torque the nut, watch the gray butyl ooze out, and no water is not getting in. No chemical handcuffs, no future repair bills. Ignore this, and you will see the fallout in any core repair shop. Shredded balsa, lifted gel coat, repair bills that sting. The industry's sloppy use of the word sealant costs real money. There is a world of difference between a gasket and a glue, and getting it wrong means core rot and delamination. Picture a deck cleat that has been bedded with 3M5200. The owner thinks he has done it right, tight, permanent, no leaks. But boats are not static. Every time the hull flexes under sail, every time the temperature swings from a cold dawn to a blazing afternoon, that rigid polyurethane joint takes the load. The numbers do not lie. 3M5200 sets up with a tensile strength of about 700 pounds per square inch. That is not just sealing a fitting, it is welding the hardware to the thin top skin of a cored fiberglass deck. The balsa core underneath has no say in the matter. Fast forward a few seasons. The stainless bolts holding that cleat start to work back and forth, just a hair, with every wave and every dock line. Polyurethane does not forgive. Unlike a gasket, it does not compress and relax. It stretches, then snaps back, transferring every bit of movement straight to the gel coat. Micro cracks radiate out from the bolt holes, spidering through the brittle top layer. Water finds these cracks and starts seeping into the balsa. The core goes soft, loses its grip, and the cycle accelerates. Now comes the moment of truth. The owner grabs a wrench, maybe a heat gun, and tries to pull the hardware. The fitting refuses to budge. He pries harder. The gel coat lifts with a sickening pop, bringing a chunk of laminate and a fistful of rotten balsa with it. What started as a simple rebedding job has turned into a full-scale core repair. Delamination is not just a word in a surveyor's report, it is the sound of money leaving your wallet. I have seen it 1,000 times. Polyurethane adhesives like Sikaflex 291 and Mastersil SMP boast impressive elongation, up to 500%, but once cured, they are still a chemical bond, not a dynamic gasket. Shear forces from flexing, torque from hardware, and thermal cycling all add up. The deck does not care about marketing claims. It cares about how energy moves through layers, how a rigid glue traps stress until something gives. And when it does, it is never the $30 tube that pays the price. It is the fiberglass, the core, and the owner's bank account. The invoice lands with a thud. $600 for a job that should have cost $10. It is not a hypothetical. The bill is real, stamped with the yard's letterhead. Every hour of grinding and laminating, spelled out in black and white. The owner stands in the shop, clutching the old cleat and the invoice, eyes flicking from one to the other, searching for logic in the numbers. A $30 tube of 3M5200, sold as a miracle fix, has turned into a repair that costs more than a year's slip fee. The question always comes, quiet and raw, how did it get this bad? The answer sits in the deck itself. Chemical bonds that do not let go, hardware torn out, balsa core soaked through until it squishes under your thumb. The industry's promise of permanence comes with a catch. Boats move, flex, and breathe. Every dockline tug, every shift in temperature, opens a new path for water. Once the water is in, hope and a few layers of delaminated fiberglass are all that stand between the owner and a core that crumbles like wet cardboard. The economics are ruthless. West Marine and the chandlery giants pocket their profit up front, selling the dream of leak-proof security. The yard collects on the back end, carving out rot, scarfing in new core, and trying to blend gel coat so the damage disappears. The loop closes, and the owner is left holding the bill. $600 for a single stanchion base, all because the wrong tube was trusted. The math is brutal. $10 for a reversible gasket, or $600 for a core excavation. It is not just a bad deal, it is a verdict on how convenience trumps craft. In the yard, the saying goes, pay for prevention or pay for regret. The industry keeps selling chemical handcuffs, but the bill always comes due, paid in cash, time, and disappointment. Here is how a real shipwright beds deck hardware when the goal is 0 leaks, 0 drama, and no future core rot. Start with the hole. Do not just punch through the gel coat and call it a day. You want to chamfer the edge, a clean 45-degree bevel so the gasket can seat without slicing the gel coat or stressing the laminate. I use a countersink bit, just enough to create a shallow dish around the hole. This is not cosmetic. That chamfer gives the butyl tape a place to flow, forming an O-ring that compresses evenly as you torque the hardware. Next, clean every surface, no dust, no oil, no old sealant. If there is any trace of silicone, grind it out until you hit bright, raw laminate. Now take a strip of gray butyl tape, about as thick as a pencil, and wrap it around the base of the fitting. Overlap the ends, do not stretch it thin. Set the hardware in place, lining up the bolts. As you tighten the nuts, watch for that slow, deliberate bulge of butyl squeezing out from under the flange. That is the sign you have a true gasket, not a glue joint, not a chemical weld, but a living, flexible seal that will move with the deck for years. Butyl never hardens, never loses elasticity. When it is time to rebed, you will peel it away clean. No chisels, no heat guns, no torn gel coat. That is the difference between a reversible gasket and a lifetime of chemical handcuffs. There's a reason the old yards kept it simple. Maintenance isn't a curse. It's the only thing standing between you and a 6-figure hull repair. Butyl tape turns the cycle on its head. Instead of chemical handcuffs, you get a gasket that can be inspected, serviced, and replaced without a single solvent. Every year, you walk the deck, check the hardware, look for that slow ooze of butyl bulging out. If it's still supple, you're dry. If it's tired, you peel it up, wipe the flange, lay down a fresh strip, and torque the nuts. That's it. No chisels, no heat guns, no grinding out old silicone, no panic as black polyurethane stains the gel coat. You're not paying for a miracle in a tube, you're paying for control. $5 for a roll of butyl buys you decades of reversibility. The economics are simple. Serviceable gaskets keep you off the repair list, out of the yard, and in charge of your own boat. That's the habit to build, the habit that pays for itself every season. Every week, I watch another owner pay thousands of dollars to undo what a $5 roll of butyl tape could have prevented. Right now, chandlery shelves are stacked with tubes that promise miracles but guarantee misery. American Boat and Yacht Council standards have not changed, and neither has the physics of water or the cost of ignorance. You can still choose a gasket over a glue trap. The smartest fix is the one you can someday undo. Let me know your thoughts below.